Imagine being so fundamentally exceptional that white America deems you a threat. Let's talk about it. My first job out of law school was as a public defender, and they shipped me off to like a really rural jurisdiction. And I immediately distinguished myself as someone who like really gave a shit about the job and who wanted to do well. And at first, everybody loved that. It's important to note that I was the only Black attorney in that entire city, and so I was also the only Black public defender in that office. At first, everyone loved me. There was like a lot of snapping and neck rolling, but I got a lot of compliments on like my trial skills, my appearance, and my jokes, my personality. People wanted to be my friend. But over time, something shifted. And it shifted just at the time that I distinguished myself as someone who really cared about being a trial attorney and who was good at it. I was still being delightful and sociable and trying to make friends, but I was also doing really well at my job. And there was a sudden like chill and frostiness in the air. And I realized that people were starting to like me less. After a couple weeks, I was pulled aside and told that I was a mean girl, right? That people were intimidated by me, that I was aggressive and I was scary and I was like stomping around with this attitude and that I needed to calm down. This was definitely not the whole office, and some of my best friends are still there. But it was a select group of women who just really didn't like my attitude, I guess, or the way I was functioning in the courtroom. And suddenly I had gone from the office pet to the office threat. Let's talk about it. In 2013, Dr. Keisha Thomas, a professor at the University of Georgia, came up with a term to describe this exact phenomenon, the pet to threat phenomenon. According to Dr. Thomas and anyone who has eyes in corporate America, as soon as a Black woman presents herself as credentialed and competent in the workforce, she suddenly threatens the status quo, and that pisses people off and it incurs retaliation. Per this phenomenon, when a Black woman starts at a new job, she's immediately celebrated, right? People want to be around her, they're complimenting her, they're offering her mentorship, they're so excited that she's there. But over time, you pick up workplace issues, and after a while, you point them out. You go to leadership and say, hey, I'm observing this, this, and this. And oftentimes these issues are related to like prejudice or discrimination or systemic racism, things that white corporate America hates talking about. You also maybe point out that you feel like you're being overlooked, right? Like you're not being picked for cool assignments, or people are starting to exclude you and you're worried. And that's when the retaliation starts. The organization or leadership gets defensive and suddenly you're identified as the problem. This is your fault. You have an attitude. You're aggressive. You're asking for too much. You're pointing out problems that don't exist, honey. At this point, leadership or the organization tells you that like you're not good at communicating and you're not performing that well, and your peers are having a hard time getting to know you, and you should put yourself out there more. And ultimately, you just don't fit in with corporate culture. And so eventually you decide to leave, right? They don't fire you, but they've essentially forced you out, and here you go. You have the pet to threat phenomenon. And I think what undergirds all of this is that like white corporate America feels good when they can describe themselves as benevolent, right? When they can point to diversity and say, look at all these Black people we have at this office. And they're fine with you performing well, right? If you're performing well, it means racism doesn't exist. But as soon as you get better at your job than they are, that's when they don't like it, and suddenly they turn their attitude around. White corporate America wants you to do well, but never better than them. And when you inevitably surpass them as a Black woman, that's when it pisses everyone off and you get pushed out. So this is the pet to threat phenomenon, and it happens everywhere. I'd love to hear if it's happened to you. Tell me in the comments. It's me, the threat, signing off. Toodles!